Hello and welcome to Make It with Diltoons. Today we are going to experiment with air dry clay. Air dry clay is a natural, sustainable material that's kind to the earth, so let's dive in and see what we can create with it. When working with air dry clay, it's important to always have an airtight container nearby. Once the clay is exposed to air, it starts drying just like the name suggests. So make sure to store any unused clay in an airtight container to prevent it from drying out. Another essential thing to know when working with air dry clay is something called as a slip. Slip is a mixture of air dry clay and water, typically in 2:1 ratio. To make slip, take a small amount of clay and mix it with water. Let the clay dissolve until it forms a slimy glue-like consistency. This slip acts as an adhesive when working with clay and is incredibly useful for joining pieces together. Here are the tools I'm using today. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure how most of them work. I'm just going with my gut. I'm definitely an amateur, not a pro. So this is all about trusting my instincts and experimenting as I go. Right now, I'm rolling out a flat base which I will later shape into a dish or a small bowl. Another method for shaping air dry clay is pinching it to form a bowl shape. However, for this project, I'm fusing the clay back together to create a different object, a holder for incense sticks. If you follow me on social media, you probably know how much I love incorporating ice into my designs. For this piece, I've shaped the center into an eye and poked a hole where the incense stick will sit. Now I'm using sandpaper to smooth the surface of the clay. This helps remove any air bubbles or lumps and gives it a polished finish. Now we are starting our next project, a yin-yang dish. It's perfect for those small dishes you keep on your nightstand. I hope the pieces come together seamlessly once they're dry, leaving no gaps and forming a perfect circle. This is an out of the blue thought. I'm trying to use a ceramic bowl to create another bowl by using the ceramic bowl as a base or a mold. It's a simple way to achieve a consistent rounded shape. Next, I decided to try something fun, a cat-shaped container. You all know how much I love my cats. As I was working, I had a sudden idea to incorporate leaf patterns into one of the bowls. I am pressing leaves onto the surface to create natural textures and designs. Since the clay has already started to dry a bit, I am wetting the surface with slip to ensure the impressions turn out well. I am not entirely sure how it will look, but I am excited to see the results once it's fully dry. Now it's time to set everything aside to dry. Fingers crossed it all turns out as planned. Alright, let's check on the yin-yang dish. It's not perfect, but it's not bad either. I'm happy with how it turned out overall. As for the cat-shaped container, well, it had a bit of an accident. Sadly, it lost 2 of its limbs during the process. Poor little guy. It's a rough day for him. The most unfortunate part of this project was with the bowl. While the leaf print came out beautifully, I learned some hard lessons along the way. When using a mold, It's essential to grease the base, otherwise, the clay will stick, making it nearly impossible to remove the pieces cleanly. Another mistake was using a layer of clay that was too thin. Because of this, the bowl didn't turn out as I had envisioned. When I tried to remove it, the pieces broke apart. Instead of discarding the fragments, I repurposed them to make more slip. All the broken bits went straight into the slip bowl to be reused for future projects. Next, I started the painting process, but it didn't go as planned either. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I chose these colors. They looked great in my head, but once I started painting, I quickly lost confidence. The colors just didn't work the way I had hoped. For the yin yang dish, I was aiming for a day and night situation. Unfortunately, I wasn't satisfied with how it turned out either. But I decided to keep going and work with what I had. I added some gold accents to give it a little shine and character. Finally, I moved on to glazing. Glazing serves two purposes. It acts as a varnish and a finishing layer. Since I have cats, fur tends to stick to acrylic paint, but glazing solves the problem. It makes the surface easy to clean and also provides a water repellent finish. And there you have it, my first set of finished pieces. They're not perfect, but it's all part of the learning process. Since I wasn't happy with the last result, I decided to give it another try. Because we don't give up, this is a learning process. We learn, we evolve, and we thrive. That's the mindset we should live by. This time I'm creating a hanging charm. I'm going for a moon and stars theme, and of course I couldn't resist adding eyes to the moon. I'm working on the texture now to make it more realistic like an actual moon. I had already drawn and cut out stencils for the stars and teardrops, so I'm using these to cut out the shapes from the clay. Once the pieces were done and set aside to dry, I started working on a heart-shaped dish. This one features eyes and pouting lips. It's going to be a fun and whimsical piece. I already have the colors planned out in my head and I'm optimistic it will turn out great. Now let me introduce my favorite creation so far, a bread and butter dish. It's the cutest thing I've ever made with air dry clay. The bread and butter just look so happy together. I still need to give it a border to finish it off. With the leftover clay, I used the pinching method to create two small dishes. These will be perfect for storing craft supplies later. This batch of brown clay took 4 days to dry, so I had to be patient. While waiting, I gave some love to my little Leo, and yes, I wore a mask, not because my baby is stinky, but because sanding the dried clay creates fine dust that you don't want to inhale. But tragedy struck again. The bread lost its happiness, and I lost a star and 2 teardrops. Still, we don't give up, we rise from the ashes like a phoenix. I primed the base with gesso and let it dry. By the way, I love the smell of gesso. After that, I started painting. I forgot to record the painting process, but here's a cute video of my cats to make up for it. And now for the final outcome. I'm so happy with how everything turned out. For an amateur, I think this is extraordinary. The moon and stars hanging charm looks adorable and would be perfect for a baby's crib or nursery. It's my star of the day. The heart-shaped dish also turned out beautifully. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me on this creative journey. Stay tuned for more adventures. Bye-bye.